It was a quiet Saturday morning, the sun glinting off the dew-soaked lawn, when I noticed the ominous glint of Karen Thompson's car pulling up the street. Atlas, sensing trouble before I did, let out a low growl. I had just finished mounting my flagpole, proudly displaying the American flag I inherited from my grandfather. Its stars and stripes fluttered in the gentle breeze, catching the light in a way that made the entire yard feel alive. Karen stormed up the walkway, clipboard in hand, her expression a mix of righteous fury and self-importance. "This flag must be removed immediately," she barked before I could even ask what was wrong. "It violates HOA standards. I don't care what you think. This is unacceptable." I blinked, taken aback. "Excuse me? Karen, it's an American flag. It's on my property. I've double-checked the HOA guidelines. There's nothing prohibiting it." "That's irrelevant," she shouted, tapping her clipboard with manic energy. "Flags must conform to community standards. This is offensive. This is... "Offensive?" I interrupted, keeping my voice calm. Atlas barked softly, pacing at my feet as if to say, "Brace yourself." Karen's nostrils flared. "Yes, offensive. You can't just display whatever you want. This is about decorum. It's about community harmony. People walking by could be disturbed." I stared at her, utterly dumbfounded. People disturbed? By the American flag? The same flag my grandfather had flown in his military uniform? The one my family had preserved for generations? Now apparently a threat to community harmony, according to Karen Thompson? She didn't give me time to respond. "I'm the HOA president. That flag comes down now, or I will issue a formal violation and fines immediately." Atlas growled, low and warning, and I had to physically restrain him from lunging forward. I took a deep breath. Karen had crossed a line. This wasn't a petty disagreement about lights or Halloween decorations. She was attempting to remove protected expression from private property, plain and simple. I reached for my phone and recorded the encounter. "Karen, I've consulted federal regulations," I said evenly. "The Freedom to Display the American Flag Act of 2005 specifically protects homeowners' rights to display the flag. Your demand violates federal law." Her eyes widened, but only for a moment. Then she recovered, waving her hands dramatically. "That doesn't matter. HOA rules supersede everything. I don't care what law you cite." I sighed, realizing she had no concept of legal hierarchy. "Karen, HOA rules cannot override federal law. The law explicitly protects homeowners like me from fines or removal of the American flag. Any attempt to enforce your demand would be considered unlawful and could open the HOA and you personally to legal action." Karen's face twisted in fury, and she muttered something about precedent and community expectations. I leaned against the porch railing, Atlas by my side, and simply waited while she floundered, no argument stronger than the federal statute I had just cited. By the next morning, a formal violation notice was taped to my door. It read, "Flag display violates HOA community standards. Remove immediately or face escalating fines. Karen Thompson, HOA President." I immediately contacted the HOA by email, attaching a photo of the flag and referencing the federal protections. "This notice is unlawful," I wrote. "Please advise on how the HOA intends to comply with federal law and protect residents' rights." Karen responded first, naturally. She sent a frantic email claiming she was just enforcing community harmony and the federal law was irrelevant to HOA enforcement. I forwarded her email to the board with my attorney copied, adding, "Any attempt to enforce this notice would constitute a violation of federal law and resident harassment." By the midweek, a few neighbors had noticed the tension. One elderly gentleman waved as he drove by. "Keep that flag flying. Don't let her intimidate you." I smiled, feeling a surge of vindication. The law, community support, and proper documentation were on my side. Karen, however, had no clue. She was now escalating by pacing the sidewalk, muttering to herself, calling neighbors to warn them about this dangerous display, and generally making herself the spectacle of the block. I consulted my attorney again, who confirmed that if Karen attempted to fine me or remove the flag, we could pursue immediate legal action. I also reached out to a local veterans group who offered to attend if Karen showed up in person, providing additional witnesses and support. The night I finally raised the American flag fully on the pole, Atlas sat proudly at my side. The wind caught the fabric, sending the stars and stripes rippling beautifully across the lawn. Karen appeared at the edge of the property line, muttering incoherently, but there was nothing she could do. She had already been formally warned that federal law protected this display, and any further action could have serious consequences for her personally. I realized then that Karen Thompson thrived on intimidation, arbitrary rules, and fear, but facts, law, and community support were stronger than her tantrums. The flag would remain, waving proudly, a symbol of both national pride and personal rights, and Karen could do nothing to stop it. By the time the HOA board convened a special session, Karen Thompson was in full panic mode. She burst into the meeting room, clipboard in hand, phone at the ready, muttering about disrespect, community offense, and dangerous precedent. Her face was red, hands shaking, not from cold, but from the realization that this time her authority had limits. "I demand the flag be removed," she shouted before anyone could speak. "It's offensive. It violates community standards. I am the HOA president." I stood calmly beside Atlas, who sat loyally at my side, tail flicking, as if sensing the storm but knowing the outcome would be in our favor. My attorney stepped forward first, projecting authority and calm. "Karen, any attempt to enforce removal of this flag is a violation of federal law. The Freedom to Display the American Flag Act protects homeowners from fines or interference by HOA officers. Your notice is unlawful, and any enforcement would expose you and the HOA to legal liability." Karen sputtered, attempting to regain control. "But this is disrespectful. The community standards must be enforced." The board, previously silent, finally spoke. "Karen, we've reviewed the complaint and all legal documentation. The residence display is fully compliant with federal law and HOA bylaws. No violation exists. Your notice is rescinded immediately." Karen's face twisted in outrage, but the evidence was irrefutable. The board played the ring footage I had captured showing her pacing along the street, muttering threats and making phone calls to neighbors. Her irrational behavior was documented and undeniable. Atlas barked once, tail wagging, as if punctuating her defeat. "Your authority," the board continued, "does not extend to harassment or unlawful interference with protected displays. Any future attempts will result in formal disciplinary action and legal consequences." Karen's protests grew louder, but they were drowned out by the calm, firm voices of the board members. "This is about legal rights, not opinion. You may feel personally offended, but that does not give you the right to remove property from a neighbor's yard." Neighbors who had attended the meeting to support me whispered among themselves. One middle-aged woman said, "Finally, someone is holding her accountable." Another teen smirked and muttered, "She's losing it in real time." Karen, sensing her credibility collapsing, attempted one last dramatic flourish. "I'm the HOA president. You can't do this. If one flag stays, where does it end?" The board shook their heads. "Karen, HOA officers are bound by law. Your actions must comply with bylaws and federal protections. This meeting documents your overreach. Any further violation will be recorded and acted upon." Red-faced and muttering threats about appeals and retribution, Karen stormed out of the room, leaving the clipboard behind. Her authority, once terrifying to the neighborhood, had crumbled in the face of law, documentation, and community support. That evening, I raised the American flag fully on the pole, Atlas sitting proudly at my side. The wind caught the fabric, sending stars and stripes rippling magnificently across the lawn. Neighbors stopped by, silently cheering, some snapping photos for social media. Karen, of course, appeared on her porch, peering angrily through blinds, phone in hand. She muttered about rules and community standards, but there was nothing she could do. Federal law, HOA policy, and witnesses all made her powerless. Any attempt to remove the flag now could have resulted in civil or criminal action against her. Over the next few days, the HOA issued a formal statement. Residents may display the American flag without interference from board members or officers. Unauthorized removal or fines by officers will be considered harassment and could result in legal action. The board will monitor compliance and protect residents' rights. Karen's credibility within the neighborhood was officially damaged. Neighbors who had long endured her petty enforcement and overreach quietly celebrated the victory. Atlas barked once, tail wagging, as if to punctuate the victory. The American flag flew proudly that night, a beacon of lawful authority over arbitrary HOA overreach, and a reminder to Karen Thompson that some rules simply cannot be broken, no matter how loudly she yells. If you made it this far, you're awesome. Hit the like button and subscribe.